Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the From the Fabricator podcast. This is a special edition, one-off, because I have one special guest kind of in light of what happened a couple weeks ago in Nashville. I am going to have on a guy named Victor Salazar. Sal is his name, and he is the head of National Overwatch, and they help schools basically review the threat assessments, and he recommends the proper fittings of security materials, including glass and glazing. I found this company late last year, was really impressed with it. Never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be talking to the founder after yet another school shooting. It's sad, it's frustrating, and especially this school shooting really ripped a lot of us here in the glass industry pretty hard because of the way that the shooter went in through the doors, through what looked to be just typical tempered glass. So that was a gut punch. So it was a great opportunity to talk to Sal about what he does, how he got into this, how he helps schools, and with a real straight mindset too of doing it the right way for the right reasons and with the right options. So quick little interview with Victor Salazar of National Overwatch. Check it out, and I'll be back on the other side. All right, special podcast continues, and it is a great honor for me to have Victor Salazar, also known as Sal. You'll hear me call him Sal. Victor Salazar of National Overwatch. You can find them online at nationaloverwatch.org. It's a great organization and a very timely organization because of what's going on in our world right now. I've had the chance to get to know Sal a tiny bit. I know his organization a little bit as well. I discovered it at the end of last year. We're going to learn about that today and a lot more. Sal, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's nice to meet you, Max. Hi, guys.
Great to have you here, Sal. Let's talk about you. How does a guy end up in a position like you are right now, running National Overwatch, which is an organization which we're going to talk about, which is very important because of school safety and so on. But talk about you. Where did you come from, and how did you end up in this position?
So I'm from Dallas, Texas. I joined the military at 18. I was an airborne ranger in the Army. Uh, did I spent half my life in Iraq? Did tours in Iraq, Afghanistan. I spent pretty much the last 12 years as a private military contractor for the State Department in Baghdad. And this whole thing happened. How we started this, it was just a freak accident. Again, it still makes me laugh. If you ever would have told me that I'd be starting a company 2 years ago, I probably would have laughed at you. Uh, so my company, I was on my way back to Baghdad. My company flew me to DC 26 hours early. And I was like, why am I here? I could have spent another night with my wife and kids. I just had a brand new baby girl. And so I'm in DC, been in DC 100 times, never seen the nation's capital, the White House. So I decided to rent a bicycle. I'm half a mile away from the White House. I hit a pothole, go over the handlebars, over the curb, and I snapped my ankle in half.
Wow.
Snapping out. I broke 5 bones, dislocated 2, 2 plates, and 10 screws later. And again, I spent half of my life in the Middle East, and a bicycle just wrecks my world.
Amazing.
I'm sitting on my couch with my wife and my 2 kids, and Uvalde happened, and it just, man, it crushed me. Just every single aspect of that crushed me, and I'm like, a light bulb just went on. I'm like, okay, there has to be a better way to fit. There has to be a better way to do this, right? And it came to the conclusion, why can't we look at threats to schools like we look at threats overseas, right? It's just simple. With all the guys that I've worked with, all the special operations and all the, different agency folks out there, like, you take our perspective and our mindset, we can fix this. And I started National Overwatch 2 days after Uvalde. And when we started, it was just one thing. It was assessing threats and vulnerabilities in elementary schools.
Right.
I'd called so many schools and heard the same thing over and over again. Well, it's not in the budget. I'm like, that's not an excuse anymore at all.
Right.
And so I made it a nonprofit, right? Because I don't give a shit about making money. It's just the fact that we can do this, right? Do something bigger than ourselves for a purpose, a mission. And, decided to put a team together of FBI, Homeland, Special Operations, CIA, cops, non-military personnel, but you take our perspective, our knowledge, our experience, and you apply that to schools. And that's when we came up with National Overwatch. That's when, National Overwatch started really pushing through, and FBI, Homeland, Secret Service, they have threat assessments for schools.
Right.
Threat assessments, right? They're 40 pages of just crap, right? So what we did is our process, we made it simple. We made it simple for schools. And part of our process is free, no money, nothing. Again, because at this point, we see what schools are spending money on and how much money they're spending on. And you can't spend money when you don't understand where your problems lie,
Right.
right? Simplify it, break it down. Where are your problems? Let's fix it. And then it kind of evolved into, I didn't want to just do one thing with schools. I didn't want to just assess their threats and vulnerabilities and say bye. I wanted to say, okay, well, there's so many, if we fix one thing and there's 7 things wrong, are we going to make a difference? No, we're not, right? So every single thing that we're seeing wrong with we're seeing schools that what they're doing wrong, we find a solution. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're filling the gaps where schools are dropping the ball.
Yeah. And that's the big, that's the big thing. So you get National Overwatch started because schools basically are getting advice from 20 different areas. They're getting advice from manufacturers. They're getting advice from architects. They're getting advice from the guy down the street, sort of thing. And you said, okay, let's look at this like the things that you had to protect in Afghanistan. Let's look at this as a target. How do we protect it? How do what's the soft openings and so on? And so that's kind of how you went to work on the different schools that you've helped already.
Yeah, and it's just like every guy that's with National Overwatch, right, has spent so much years overseas. You have to look at threats, how we look at threats, right? So we think like bad guys. If I were to do this, how would I do that? So we have that mindset and perspective. That's a way we can attack schools and figure out where their vulnerabilities lie. You know what I mean? So it's, and to hit on what you just said, security vendors. I mean, there's a lot of good security vendors out there, and I'll get to our partners, but security vendors are taking full advantage of schools. Hey, spend money on this. This is the best product, and it does nothing.
Unnecessary. It's too unnecessary.
And I told myself when I started this, if I could pull a nickel from every American in the country to put towards schools, I'm going to do it. But essentially, we can assess threats and vulnerabilities all day long in schools. But what's the flip side of that, right? Our security vendors. And when I thought about it, I didn't want to partner with the security vendor for sake of partnering with the security vendor. I wanted to partner with leaders in their fields, like Ballistic Glass and Armor Solutions, Zero Eyes, Battle Springs Rants for training. I want to partner with people that are changing the game.
Right.
Right. So not only the schools, and again, I'm not a business person. I've been a shooter my whole life. When I look at my security vendors and people that I partner with, I look at them and I say the same exact thing. If you guys do not have the same principles and morals that we have, then there's no point. We give no one the reason to say no to partner with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And so the big difference that you have is that people were getting kind of loaded up on, hey, we got you now, and we're going to just load a whole bunch of pork into your process.
Oh, yeah.
You're taking a look at it and say, you need this, but you don't need that. And here's why. And
Exactly.
And I think that's the big thing. And as you've learned and you've taken a look at the glass, unfortunately, and as we saw in Nashville, the glass was the weak point because they didn't have the right material in the doors. And that was probably something, if you looked at that school 6 months ago or 6 weeks ago, you would have picked that up right away, that you need to change that now. Am I reading that correctly?
No, of course. Yeah. And when I met Ballistic Glass and Armor Solutions, I knew about ballistic glass, but not to this extent. And schools continue to spend millions of dollars on glass with this film on it. Now, I've built a very good relationship with Ballistic Glass and Armor Solutions, and when when I go to their office, their warehouse, we shoot that glass with film.
Yeah.
I've shot plenty of glass with film. One round goes through, and then you can just take a hammer and just the whole thing shatters. And it's just like, this is what schools are spending millions of dollars on, you know?
And unfortunately, and I think that's where you come into with a professional, independent approach, because the film thing is a big issue with me. I mean, I'm a glass guy.
Yeah.
The film has angles in some different categories, but when it comes to safety and security, I don't believe in it, especially because if you put it on the outside, you pour gasoline on it, it'll start to come right off. At least in my experience. And then, like you said, in shooting it, glass is the way. Glass clad polycarbonates, glass clad with different materials, like companies like Ballistic Glass are doing, and many others in our industry. That's the way to go to keep the bad guy out, or at least delay them enough until the police can get there. And I think that's the big goal. And I think that's what you're looking at when you're looking at every threat assessment on how to protect these children going forward.
Yeah. And I mean, doing like the statistics show, like every active school shooting, these guys, they do their homework. They do counter surveillance. They see, okay, where can I get in? What are the weak points? When you have glass with film, and it's literally does nothing. But if you had like ballistic glass is, ballistic glass, I mean, you can shoot it and hit it with a hammer, hit it with a sledgehammer, it's still not going to break, right? So if you're going to spend money on the products that are actually going to do you good, right? And schools are in this mindset that let's be reactive, and I'm like, you guys have to be proactive. Don't worry about when the shooter gets in. Try to, keep them out of the school. Your whole mindset should be exterior and then interior. Period.
Absolutely. So I'm with Victor Salazar of National Overwatch. You can find them online at nationaloverwatch.org. It's a great website. It kind of breaks everything down. So real quick, because I know you got a bunch going on right now.
No,
If a school calls you and says, Sal, you and your guys and gals, I need you to come out here and take a look. What does a process for National Overwatch look like if a school calls you up?
well, if a school calls us, obviously we want to know as much information as we can. How many schools in that school district? How many elementary schools? Again, because why I started this, I wanted to go after the most vulnerable period. So my process, that's kind of, I don't really want to get in specifically, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
it's
understand that.
it's very simple, right? And the first part is free, and then they take a self assessment, and then it's very short. And again, and the reason why I did this is because security firms all over the country charge an ungodly amount of money
Sure.
to do an in-depth threat assessment, right? It costs that, but we don't even know if a school needs an in-depth threat assessment. So my process kind of negates that. Like, okay, take this self-assessment. We see where they're at, right? And we're like, hey, you guys are above average. Could we still do in-depth threat assessment? Sure, of course. Are there still going to be vulnerabilities? Sure, of course, but they're better off than a lot of schools.
Yeah.
But the schools that take it and they're like, oh my God, they're way off. They're in bad shape. We go out there, and again, it takes about a week to do 3 or 4 days just to do an in-depth threat assessment and risk analysis. And we have 3 or 4 guys do it.
Yeah.
Once 3 or 4 guys per school. So you're getting, and I say this the same thing with RSOs. 1 is none, 2 is 1, right? But with these guys, you have 3 or 4 guys backing each other up. So if one guy misses something, another guy can catch it, right? That's how we don't make mistakes.
And you do it for existing schools, and for if an architect's drawing a new school and needs advice, or you would do it for a new school as well.
Of course, and it would be great. It'd be great to do new schools because we can get with the contractors and plan up their proactive security measures ahead of time versus going in later. But yeah, either or, before, after, it doesn't matter. We're
And,
there.
and I know you've shot at some glass. And does it amaze you and impress you the materials we've come up with as an industry to help stop these bullets? I mean, you're out there with a 44, firing away, and
Oh
it,
man.
it's something to see. I mean, everybody who looks at a piece of glass that's been shot at, and the way the bullet either sticks or holds. I'm curious. You're not a glass guy. What was your first reaction when you shot your first piece of bullet resistant glass?
Well, ballistic glass and armor solutions glass. I shot the film first. Uh, Trash. It was terrible. Every bullet I shot went through. But their glass, and I'm pretty. I shot and I'm like, oh man, they didn't go through. And I shot, I think 4 or 5 rounds, didn't penetrate. And then we're like, okay, well, let's hit it with the sledgehammer.
Right.
Guy comes in and starts hitting with the sledgehammer. Nothing. Doesn't break. When you shoot glass with film, you shoot one shot and it spider webs all the way down.
Yeah.
Right. With ballistic glass and armor solutions glass, you shoot it and it's just that where that penetrating is, it doesn't penetrate through the glass, but it doesn't spider web the rest of it. Like it's still it's solid. You know what I mean? So hit it as much as you want. It's not going to break.
Yeah, and
So
and correct me if I'm wrong. You also shot the rail of a door, a metal rail, and that's
yeah,
where on one where the bullet actually was stuck in it. It
yeah,
got
yeah.
held.
It was
So,
great. I shot the first one. I shot it. The ricochet hit me right in the eyeball.
oh
But
jeez, I'm
no,
glad
man.
you're wearing glasses. Obviously, right?
Yeah,
You got to wear your safety equipment.
it hit me
Yeah.
right in the eyebrow. But no, yeah, I shot the rail and the round was just stuck in there, and I was just like, and 44, it's got some, it's got some kick to it, and
Yeah.
I was impressed. 100%, I was impressed. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, and how is I guess I hate to ask how is business because it kind of sucks that you're probably busy, but how is it going with National Overwatch, and have you gotten more calls since what happened in Nashville?
Yes, sir, we have. So we just did a school in Florida. So we did a pilot program. So National Overwatch used its own money to go to a school, in-depth threat assessment for free, right? We went to that school and it was 90% of the cameras were in the wrong place. It was open. I think we got into 20 doors with just a pocket knife. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
it was uh, it was so easily identifiable, but it was complicated at the same time because there was just so many little things and that turned into big things. But again, yeah. So again, a bunch of shooters starting a company to get where we are in the last 9 months. I am beyond grateful for every minute of every hour these guys have volunteered their time for. Nobody has made any money. And again, that's not why we're doing it, but you get you get 9 A type special op guys and homeland guys that are working day and night for no money. I mean, it's a hard thing to do, but the way I lead the company, it's hey, everybody has. I want everybody to make it their own.
Yeah.
And again, we are, we just started this year. We just started really making strides in every aspect of what National Overwatch is doing. Like I said before, everything that we see wrong with schools, we're coming up with solutions. Again, because I don't want to just do one thing. I want to be the thought leader from head to toe in everything school security wise. Everybody that I partner with has that same vision, right? So like we need as many different vantage points as we can get.
Hmm.
And if you get all of these bright, brilliant minds that are changing the game, we can actually make a difference,
I like it.
actually change people's perspective, you know?
Let,
So
let's keep making a difference, and you're making a difference. This is great stuff, and as an industry, we're gonna be 100% behind you because glass is the way to keep the natural light in, keep visibility in,
yeah,
and out there. But it has the ability to keep our children and their teachers and the folks that are in that building safe. This is
exactly.
something, yeah,
Exactly. And people think that you got to have ballistic glass all over the building. I mean, you don't, but you need controlled spots where it does the most, it's most effective. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to make schools prisons. There
exactly.
are there are companies like, Ballistic Glass and Armor Solutions, Zero Eyes, that are, they're just changing the game, right? And again, like, for example, I did a school proposal to a school, to the president and vice president of that school district. And they said, yeah, we just spent $100,000 on a brand new camera system.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, can I ask you a very specific question? She was like, sure. I was like, are those cameras being monitored? And she said, no. I said, you literally spent $100,000 on a recording machine.
Yeah.
That's the mindset, but that's happening all over the country, Max, like
Yeah.
all over the country. Take the
It,
same thing with glass.
yeah.
You know, Texas alone right now, Texas is about to spend $8 to $10 million across schools in Texas for glass with film. They're spending $10 million on glass with film, and look what we just saw in Tennessee. I mean, it blows my mind.
Yeah,
It blows my mind.
mine too. But that's why I'm hoping things like this, getting you on this podcast and spreading your word, and you guys continue to spread the word, will get us over the hump. And
For sure.
Sal, I really appreciate you. This is a huge National Overwatch, nationaloverwatch.org. Check them out online. They are a charity. So if be it, please donate, because you can get a tax deduction, because they are a 501c3. I did it for Christmas this year, just so you know.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that.
And I was a fan from then, and then obviously when this all happened, having the opportunity to talk to you and bring you to my audience is something really important. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and keep up the great work out there, my friend.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for having me on, Max. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, a huge thank you to Victor Salazar, for his time. National Overwatch. Check them out at nationaloverwatch.org. Really important organization, doing some good things and promoting glass and glazing in schools, and obviously wherever else there's a massive threat. It's too important. And I think the biggest thing I can take away is we're all in this together. I mean, the one thing I said on my blog recently is that there are tons of materials from many, many different companies in this glass industry that can serve these purposes, and that can do the right thing for these schools. And now we all have to press that. So when you see a spec and you see an order for a school, if that school does not use security glazing of some sort, it really is on you to mention it to the GC, mention it to the architect. If they want somebody to give them an independent view of it, a guy like Sal and his company can do that, or whatever the case may be. We have to do better. And we can. That's the thing. We have that opportunity. So I appreciate Sal taking the time and teaching us a little bit about what he does. Interesting approach. He's a soldier, and his folks are soldiers, and they're out to protect the youth of America, and they're doing it for the right reasons and the right way. And I'm really thankful for that. This was a special, quick, one-off edition of the From the Fabricator podcast. I'll be back here in a week or two with my regularly scheduled podcast. Got some great guests lined up, and we'll be back to that normal format. But today, special one, and hope you enjoyed it, and hope you picked something up from a really, really interesting and important person, Victor Salazar, Sal of National Overwatch. Thanks, everybody.